Exodus 20, verse 1. And God spoke all these words, saying, I am what? I am the Lord. Capital L-O-R-D means behind that English word is the Hebrew word Yahweh, which is the name that God gave himself at the famous burning bush story where Moses was at the burning bush. God says, I am that I am. That's my name. I am. I'm the only being that can say I always exist. I never was created. I never get sick, and I never die. I never go away. You will do all of those things as a human. I never do that. So my name actually is my character, which is everlasting. I'm the only being that ever lasts in both directions of history. So his name is Yahweh, which comes from the Hebrew verb meaning to be, or I always am. I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. So now we start the 10 Commandments, verse 3. Here's the first one. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above or that is in the earth beneath or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, Yahweh your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of their fathers on their children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of Yahweh your God in vain, for Yahweh will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath to Yahweh your God. On it you shall not do any work, you, your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, or even your livestock are not going to work. Or the sojourner who is within your gates. So the guy who's visiting you or maybe who's working to stay at your house, even he gets a day off. Verse 11, for in 6 days Yahweh made the heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy or set apart. Verse 12, which is where we are today. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that Yahweh your God is giving you. One of the most difficult commands, yet it's the first command of God to you and me as we deal with interpersonal relationships. The home is one of the most difficult places to live your life. Can I get an amen? And there's a reason for that. We're going to talk about that right now. The home has a design. Ready? We're going to do a little bit of marital counseling, or if you're single, we're going to give you some premarital counseling. So we're going to do some premarital, marital, and family organization counseling right now. So I'm going to conglomerate all together into this fifth commandment because it deals with this whole thing. Many of us don't know why our homes exist. Why does your home exist? I'm not talking about your sticks and mortar and roof line. I'm not talking about the home, or if you're in an apartment or duplex. I'm not talking about that home. I'm talking about why you married somebody and started having little puppies, and they started to grow, and then they grew and grew and grew, and you have a bunch of children all over the place. Why does that exist? Why is that? And many of us don't know why. Why do I have a home? Why do I even do this thing called marriage / having kids? The interesting thing is, you might not know why, but God does. There's a reason you have a home. I'm not talking about the physical building. I'm talking about the people that are in your home. I know the reason why. I know the reason why you have a home. Many of us don't know why. We're just like, I don't know, I just got married and out came children. And now I got a home. And many of us live our lives inside of our home in total chaos. And God did not design us to live in chaos. He designed a structure. Governments have structures, companies have structures, man, even sports teams have structures. But for some reason we think when we get in our homes, oh, it's a free-for-all. Everybody just go crazy and do what you want. And then we wonder, why do I hate going home? Because my home is one of the most chaotic places in my whole world. Because we don't understand God's design, how honor and authority exists in my home, or doesn't exist right now. So let it be an encouragement to you and me about how God has designed our home. From Mount Sinai, which is the famous mountain over on the Sinai Peninsula, God spoke the 10 Commandments as an overview of the whole law. So this is this is the short version. So the whole law is coming, but he gives the 10 Commandments as like this umbrella thing to encompass the whole law. If you can pull off the 10 Commandments, you are pretty much fulfilling the whole law. So I'm going to give you the details later, but understand that the 10 Commandments are an overview. It's like the short version. It's like the law for dummies or whatever. And you guys take a college course or whatever, and they ask you to read some like massive tome of Shakespeare, and you start reading through it, and you're like, is this like a foreign language? It's like English, but I can't even read it. And you go, forget this, and you get online, Shakespeare for Dummies. And you buy like the condensed 30-page version rather than the 300-page version. And it gives you the overview of the whole story. That's exactly what the 10 Commandments are. They say, if you can, here's the overview. It isn't the minutia, it's the overview. Pull this off, and your life will be blessed by God. Or pull it off to the best you can. But this is the rules. Number 1, no other gods before me. We looked at it a couple weeks ago. God says, I am the only living God. You came out of Egypt that had a pantheon of gods. None of those gods even exist. They're just paintings on walls and tombs and carvings that erode, which you even see today if you go to Egypt. But I live. Don't put any other gods that don't exist before me in idol worship or anything like that. All the 10 Commandments is a listing of who is to be honored first, and then it goes down from there. God says, you honor me first. And then he says, you shall have no other gods before me, and then do not make a carved image of anything. So the second command daisy chains off the first. Then the third, we looked at 3 and 4 last week. Do not take the name of God in vain. Do not use my name to get your way. It was one thing when you took the names of Egyptian gods that don't exist, take them in vain, like, in the name of Ra, I do this business deal with you. Well, if you deceive that person, you don't go through with it, Ra's not coming after you because he's not real. He's a figment of someone's imagination that they carved on a tomb. But guess what? I'm real. I really exist. I'm the true God. So don't take my name in vain. Don't do a business deal in my name and rip that person off because I'm really here and I'll hold you accountable. And that's the whole point. It isn't necessarily profanity. It's the idea that you're going to use God's name to get your way. Don't use my name in vain for your own gain. And then number 4, keep the Sabbath holy. Take a day off. Don't work 7 days a week. Don't make work your God. Take a day off, worship with the people of God, and rest. And then today, number 5 on the commandment list, and number 1 in our fill in the blank, is honor your father and mother. Honor your father and mother. Isn't it interesting that God, the 10 Commandments are a listing of the most important first to the least important at number 10. The highest honor and authority is at the top to the least. The first 4 deal with God. I just read them to you. But the first one that deals with people is what? Your parents. The very first one that deals with interpersonal relationships is parents, is parental, is home. Why in the world would that be? Why isn't it just your neighbor? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. Why isn't it that? Why is it God, 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 mom and dad? Well, those of us that have dysfunctional homes or grew up in dysfunctional, abusive homes, we know exactly why that's in there. Because it's the most difficult thing to do, which is honor people that are imperfect like you and me. The hypocritical thing is we expect people to honor us. We expect people to give us honor, right? Hey, you don't respect me? You don't respect me? But yet when we should respect others, we go, oh no, you're not getting nothing from me. So because we're arrogant and prideful in our heart, we expect respect and honor, But many times, if we are irritated with a person, we don't give them anything. So ladies, if you're irritated with your husband, you shut down. Or ladies battle with their words. I heard some amens in the crowd. Women tear each other down and tear their husband down with their words. God has given ladies a weapon of the word to tear or to build up. Men, not so much. They can kind of go blah, 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 and people just go, whatever. God has given men physical abilities, which is why men get into trouble with physical abuse. Because when they get stressed out, it goes to the fist, not so much the mouth. But women, they don't go to like, let's wrestle. They go to, you're stupid and I hate you and I wish I never married you. I can't believe I ended up with you, you jerk. And these stupid kids. And I hate you too. I wish you were never born. And so words go right into your soul, right? So, in a home, people battle differently. Ladies tend to battle with their words because that's their power. That's the power of femininity, is the strength of the word because it cuts right to your heart. And men is pretty much physical strength. So if you grew up in a super dysfunctional home, like some of us did, the way you know who won the argument was who yelled the loudest. The way you know who won the argument is who threw the plate the furthest. I got it. I'm just trashing the whole stage. Like Tron. Anybody remember Tron? We throw those discs. The way you knew who won the battle was who could throw plates the furthest, or yell the most, or stomp around and leave the house. I'm out of here. So watch. You and I learn how to run our own home from the home we came from. Everybody with me? You watch. I'm going to reorganize some of your whole homes right now. Ready? We learn how to run our home from the home we came from. That was our learning. That was our education. If you grew up with a dad that was violent and angry and full of rage, you as a young man might realize, like, when I get mad, I'm just going to punch my wife, or I'm going to punch a wall, or I'm going to throw my kids outside in the front yard. You as a young lady might be like, oh, when I get mad, I'm going to scream and yell and tear everybody down. And I'm going to get right in my husband's face and tempt him to punch me in the face. I'm going to scream and yell and run outside. Okay, so it's hitting home for some of you. Okay, so listen. The point is that unless you and I get God's view of the home, we will repeat where we came from. Everybody with me? This is why this matters. If you're thinking, I don't even know why this matters. This is huge. This is the first commandment that God gives that is horizontal relationship. Not your neighbor, not anybody else, mom and dad. And there's a reason for that. Your home is built with a structure of honor and authority. When you dwell inside of that, you have peace. When you dwell outside of that, where everybody's just trying to get their part of the home secured, you live in chaos. Because it's a bunch of people under a roof just living like they want to. Let's look at it. Honor your father and mother. The first command dealing with human relations is the family. God created the home and human development from infant to adult to teach honor and authority. Ready? I'm going to clarify something for you. The reason you have a home is to teach honor, authority, and respect to your kids. Ready? The reason your home exists, it's not just because you got together with somebody and had kids. I have people sitting in my office sometimes, a nice young lady, a nice young man. They sit on my nice chairs in my office. And I hear from the nice young man, Sally and I have been dating for a while now. And I think it's time we took the next step. And I'll look at Sally. And I'll say, why are you here? And she'll say, Because I think it's time we went to the next level with our relationship. Why do you want to get married to him, Sally? He has these dreamy eyes. Why do you want to get married to her, young man? Because her hair is so beautiful. I'm glad you like those things about one another, but that's not the reason to get married. Or this, because we're so in love. I don't know what this is, but it won't last. All those butterflies will die. The reason, hey, listen. So here's the problem. In our society, we just think, I don't even know why I get married. I don't even know why. Why do we even get married? Why do we even have a home? Because there's no answer. America it's not in the Constitution. Nobody gives you an answer except Scripture. Because God built the home. God built men and women to be together and have chillins. Men, women, kids. That's how I know that's a lot of kids in a show. Okay, take it down to here. Because some of you guys started stressing out right there. Men, women, and kids. Through the sexual union, God brings about children. You know what's interesting is God could have done children creation in any way he wanted to. To this day, he could still be building children out of the dust like he built Adam, and doing, there's a kid, doing, there's a kid, doing, there's a kid, doing. And so you as mom and dad, you're like, there's no sexual union. It's just like we put our order in with God, and pretty soon he's going to build one out of the dirt, and then all of a sudden one shows up at our door like the stork. But you know what God does? He gives a sexual union between a husband and wife, God's design, sex is God's design, and then children come out of that. Watch. So the home that the husband and wife build together now has order. My design as a husband and Julie's design as my wife is that any of our kids are going to be taught respect, honor, and authority. If you don't teach that at home, your kids are going to leave the home thinking they run the world. And if you think your kids run the world, they're going to get a shock when they hit their first job. When the employer goes, guess what, son? You don't run this place. And you showed up 10 minutes late to work, and now you can go find a different place to work. And Johnny's going to go, what? I thought this place of employer land existed for me. Nope. See ya. You need to learn that in the home. If mom is battling dad, and dad is battling mom, and junior's battling parents, you have chaos. And nobody learns what it means to honor. Because honor in our society is lost. We don't honor pastors. We don't honor our president. We don't honor those over us in authority. We don't honor our own parents. Our children don't honor us. Honor is gone. We don't even know what honor is anymore. But God says honor is the most important thing because it makes your home functional. In many ways, parents are like God to children. They preceded them, they created them, they feed them, clothe them, love them, and discipline them. So turn to Proverbs right in the middle of your Bible. We're going to go through a couple verses this morning because I want you to see how this theme goes through Scripture. Proverbs 13:24. Proverbs 13:24. So I go into a lot of people's homes, many of your homes, and I love that when men and women put, Christian plaques or whatever, like a cute little verse. I've never seen this verse though, and this might be a good verse for you to consider for your home. Proverbs 13:24. Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to what? To discipline him. Hey, you know what? You love your kids, you'll discipline them. You will discipline your kids. Your home should never be a free-for-all. You should never care so much about your kids' feelings that you don't discipline your kids. It's the reason God creates little babies to cry and whine and be totally self-absorbed because it forces parents to go, no, 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 no. You're not going to take your diaper off in Walmart and swing it around and throw it down the aisle and wander around naked. That would be weird. We're going home. God has built childhood to help parents help their children not be selfish, to learn to honor. If you don't teach your kids to honor those above them, you have missed the point of the home. And you ultimately honor who? Ultimately honor God. Your children will not learn how to honor God if they can't even honor the people that are over them in their own home. Because they'll think, God's what I want him to be. God is who he is. And your kids will never learn humility and the ability to honor those over them if they don't learn it at home. And unfortunately, in our society, it's heading towards where your kids run your home. It's Johnny's soccer. It's your daughter starts crying, and so she gets whatever she wants. Let's go, to the mall and fix her problems as we walk around in the Promenade Mall and buy her something. There's no no, sweetie, you're not getting that. But the Coach purse. No. But nope. Maybe later? Nope, not ever. Yep, not ever. The way you know if you're training your kids in the ways of the Lord is how they respond to disappointment. If they're stompers, kickers, yellers, you're failing in your ability to help them understand life is not about them. It's about others. It's ultimately about God, and it's about honoring mom and dad, even when they say no to something that they really want. You are built to discipline your kids. So like I like to say, unless your kid is 6'4", 280 lineman, football lineman, as they're growing up, you apply the hand of understanding. Everybody with me? You apply the hand of knowledge. You apply the hand of knowledge to the seat of understanding. Now, some kids don't need to be spanked. I know, especially for girls, you look at them sideways. Sometimes your dad are you kidding me? I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. Boom, done. But some of our sons' hearts are as hard as stone. No, I ain't doing that. That's stupid, Dad. Let me fix that problem you have, my son. Doesn't always need to be physical, but sometimes it does. Hey, if you love your son, you'll discipline him. If you love him, if you hate him, you'll let him do whatever. If you hate your daughter, you will let her run your home and do whatever. If you hate your kids. See, we have it twisted in our society. We think, if Johnny or Sally's not happy, then I have to make them happy. And if they're not happy, then I'm not being a good parent. It's actually the exact opposite. When your kids are willing to honor those above them, even if they don't agree with them, then you know that you succeeded in parenting. And discipline brings your kids into alignment. Not abuse, but discipline. If your kids are not disciplined, then you have not honored God who gave you those kids. You didn't create those kids, you helped. But God built those kids. He put them in your home for a reason, to learn how to honor people with authority over them, to be respectful. That's the point of your home. The point of your home isn't just that kids exist there, that you just give them whatever they want. The point is they got to learn something while they're in your home. It's the catalyzer of their character. That's why God says, honor your father and mother. Because that can be the most difficult place to do it, is in your own home. Honoring someone does not mean their actions are approved of, but that the child is honoring the God who commanded it. Honoring says more about the person doing the honoring than the person being honored. Humility and rebellion are on the opposite ends of God's blessing. Humility and rebellion are on the opposite ends of God's blessing. Rebellion says, I want to do it my way. It's what you get when you get little babies. As your kids grow, if you have not disciplined them, they think that life is all about them. And so they rebel against your authority, your God-given authority as parents. Because watch this. Someday, your kids are going to be what? Parents. And they think, When they look back at your home that they grew up in, they go, gosh, I didn't get any discipline, and now my kids are a wreck. So watch, you can break the generational dysfunction by heeding God's word. That's how you do it. Oprah won't help you. There's no self-help, or else it would be helping. It doesn't help. You need God to change your heart and change your home so that your home becomes a place of honor. We honor our husbands. We honor our wives. Our children are built to honor us. Though we are imperfect and we expect honor, we do the same for other people who are imperfect and over us that we honor anyway. Now watch, ready? After the first service, I had a lady come up to me and go, I was sexually abused. I had a horrendous childhood. Both my parents were just abusive. And she came up to me at the table, just at the verge of just like crying her eyes out and going, I don't know how to honor my parents like that. And I said this to her, like I just read. Honoring someone does not mean you're saying everything's okay. Honoring is not saying whatever you've done is fine. Honoring says, what you've done for me within a biblical framework, I honor. Did dad pay the bills and keep the lights on? Okay. He may have been jerked in other areas, but I honor him for what he did. I honor mom for who she was. I'm not saying everything that happened in the home was okay. I'm not saying that. Honoring does not mean everything that happened is fine. It doesn't say that. What it says is, you're imperfect, mom and dad. I'm imperfect. I have grace for you because I want to have people to have grace for me. So I honor you for what God did in your home, in our home, even if it was imperfect. And I told her, I said, at some point you have to pray that God will give you the strength to just call mom and dad and go, you know, our lives together were not great. There are things that I'm really broken about that happened in our home. But the pastor of the Orchard just talked about honoring my father and mother. And so I just want to say thanks for the things that you did do for me. You provided a home for me. You provided a roof. There were things that were great that I appreciate. And that's all you have to do. And watch, when you're humble, you'd be amazed how God opens the door for reconciliation. If you're going to live your life going, I'm not going to deal with mom and dad. I'm not going to deal with mom and dad. And then they go to their grave, you have no opportunity to ask for just forgiveness from them and honor them at all. For those of us that have lost parents and we had bad relationships with them, it still goes through your head. What would it have been like if I would have reconciled with dad? What would it have been like if I reconciled with mom? If you have living parents, make sure you're honoring them. Make sure you honor them. Because watch this. This is the only command that God will bless you if you do it. Trip on this, ready? This is the only command that if you do it, God promises to bless you. Honor your father and mother that it may go well with you. And God gives you a long life in the land. God doesn't even promise a blessing if you honor him in the first 4. But by the time we get to the 5th, God goes, hey, you honor mom and dad, I'm going to bless you. You want to know why? Because it's the most difficult place to honor. Because you know how screwed up your parents are. You know how screwed up you are. Your kids definitely know how screwed up you are. Right? But here's the thing. Honoring doesn't mean they have to be perfect. Honoring means I give you respect because God has placed you as an authority over me, even though you're imperfect. And I honor you for that. I don't honor all of your decisions you've made, but I honor you because God placed you over me for a certain amount of time. Parents and the elderly are given a special designation of respect. This included showing deference to those that are older through physical and verbal appreciation. Also, older children are to take care of their parents in their old age as a way of repaying them for all the years they poured into them, both emotionally and financially. So, Leviticus 19:32, we're not going to turn there, but it literally says, rise in the presence of the gray-headed. In the law, God says, hey, all you young guys that think you don't have to do anything, when an old guy walks through, you raise yourself to show respect. It's like in the military, you show respect. Even if you don't agree with the commanders that are over you, you show respect to them. It's the same thing in the home. It says in the law, God tells the young men and women, hey, when the old guys walk through, you get up. Glad you're here, Grandpa. In our society, we've lost all semblance of honor, right? Years ago, men would get up out of their seats when women would walk into the room for dinner. If ladies were doing something in the kitchen or whatever, or they were later than the men would actually get up and the women would walk in. It wasn't because the women couldn't get to their own seat. It's because they showed honor to the ladies. They would actually get a seat and seat them. Not because they can't handle their own seat. It's because you show honor. And we've lost all honor. Or guys would hold the door for a lady. Not because she can't open her own stinking door, but because we show honor. We show that we love people when we show we honor them. You can't love somebody and not show honor. You can't love God and not honor Him. You can't love people and not honor them. It's impossible. Honoring is respecting, even if they're imperfect. God built the season of youth to be a time of exploration, learning, and serving God. While old age often brings wisdom with little energy, youth often brings energy with little wisdom. So it's funny how this is. When you're young, I remember when I was younger, when you're young, especially as a young man, you go, dude, I don't need no help. I don't need no mom and dad, man. They're just like old relics of a time gone by. You get dinosaurs in my home, like all these T-Rexes walking around inside my house. Then you realize as you get a little older and you get out into the real world and you go, the saying, the older I get, the smarter my parents were. Right? The older I get, the more I realize, dude, mom and dad did know some stuff. And the thing is that when you're young, you got tons of energy, but a little bit of wisdom. Which is the reason car insurance is more for young men. True story, because that just happened to me. There's a reason for that. You want to know why? Because when you're full of testosterone and like, I'm never going to die. Whole bunch of energy, super little bit of wisdom. But it's still an awesome time of life. God built it like that. When you get older, though, you have a lot of wisdom and like, do I have to get off this seat? Or your mind goes, dude, I could totally still do that. Your body's like, nope, we're not going there. You're like, dude, I feel great. Then the next day you wake up after, doing something, you're like, creak. All your joints are creaking. You go, man, I don't have the body I did. Well, whose body is this anyway? And here's the point. The point is that as a young person, you show honor to those that are older than you because they got something to share with you. Mom and dad got something to guide you with. They've lived a while, and they love you. Same thing with your mom and dad if they're still alive, if you're older. You show honor to them, not because they're perfect, but because God has placed them over you. You show respect. Believers are to honor the authority over them as authority from God, whether parental, governmental, or church. No one lives outside the boundaries of leadership and authority, and there is no stable society without a stable home. Having an orderly, honoring home pleases God and is the only command that, if followed, draws the blessing and favor of God. The home is the primary furnace of discipleship where a person's character is forged. The depletion of our society is not governmental. The depletion of our society is home. Our homes have fallen apart. Dads are leaving their responsibility. Mom's going, I don't need you, I can do it anyway. Kids grow up going, I don't even know what it is to be a man because I've never seen a real man in my whole life. The young girls in the home are like, I guess dad doesn't love me. I guess I got to go find some guy that'll show me I'm valuable. So the whole home blows apart, and we are wondering why our society blows apart. You have a stable, God-honoring home, you'll be amazed at how much more stable your society is. Because a house is no more stable than its foundation. And the foundation of any society is its home, is me and you. So let me wrap up with this. In your home today, ladies, show honor how you speak to your husbands. Show honor verbally. Men, you know what? That was really nice. The guy leaned over and kissed his wife. If you have your wife next to you, if it's somebody else's wife, do not do this. If your wife is next to you, lean over and kiss her right now, even if you got in a fight on the van on the way over. Okay? All right. Isn't that super cute? All the single people are like, dude, this sucks. One of those. But here's the point. Here's the point. Ready? Ladies, you will show honor majority in how you speak. You'll show honor in how you speak in your home. Men, you will show honor in how you physically act. Hugging your wife, kissing your wife, holding hands with your wife. Even if your kids go, gross, still do it anyway. Because watch, guess what? Your kids might hate to see that, but when they grow up, they go, you know what, mom and dad really love each other. If it's always cold and separated, kids never learn what it means to honor. There needs to be honor here so there can be honor here. And ultimately honor here. The closer we draw to God, the closer we draw to one another as a couple. And ultimately as a family. Your family doesn't have to be perfect. No, none is, including mine. But it can be a place of honor and order. It doesn't have to be chaos. It doesn't have to be. Choose to honor God by honoring those in authority over you. Primarily your parents. But if you are parents, honor one another so your kids can see honor right in front of their face.